Welcome back for another episode here on the show Wave On. I'm Misty, the host here in Sylvan Lake, Michigan. I got the code LUNA10 before we dive into the podcast. Go to lunamoonsupyoga.com. We have a retail page there, and you can use your code LUNA10. Save a little bit of money, find some merch, maybe some Eco Lip Balm, SPF 20 for the paddleboard season coming up. Play safely in the sun, folks. And I'm Misty again here, and I have Michael coming up on the line. Michael, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, coming on and sharing your passion and stories for paddleboarding. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you're in Minnesota. I'm going to have to scratch off Minnesota on the map back here behind me as one of my fellow podcast guests.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got your blog and you've been highlighting some paddlers out there around the world, not just in the Midwest. And we kind of share a lot in common, not just paddleboarding, but Minnesota and Michigan, pretty similar with all the lakes and even Lake Superior, touch point for you in Minnesota up there up north. But yeah, you're Michael in Minnesota and I'm Misty in Michigan.
Yeah, I just can't do, I'm from here or there or there.
Right, that mitten. Oh, that's so funny. How did you get started in paddleboarding?
Well, it's kind of a long story. We got time, right?
We got time. We just started.
So I'm married. My wife and I got hitched in 2015, and we went to Hawaii for a honeymoon. The name was Ahu, and we went to Waikiki Beach, essentially. And we were kind of looking for stuff to do. We have nothing planned. We went to the zoo one day, and we went to Pearl Harbor one day, and we were kind of running out of stuff to do. Well, here's this beach. Well, I'm not really a crowd type, right? Super into mass amount of people all around me. So the beach was there, but it was always crowded. So my wife was like, well, let's rent those paddle boards and then we can get out on the water. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a decent idea. So we rent these monstrosities that were paddle boards. I'd have to go back and look again, but in my mind, they were like at least 20 feet long. They probably weren't that long, but they were super big and they were super heavy.
Yeah.
So we both had to drag these like a stupid distance. It was like 200 yards or something like that to get to the beach to where we needed to go out. We finally get these hogs into the water, and they said, don't stand up until you get past the wake or whatever. And, immediately I start paddling and like some dude just kind of chilling in the water is like, your paddle's backwards. And I'm like, oh, haha, I know. And I turn it around and just off I go. And, I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither does my wife. She's out ahead of me. So we get to where we can like stand up, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, let's start standing up and we'll be like that person over there that's like just cruising along. And yeah, we couldn't stand. We tried for at least 20 minutes to stand and just repeatedly got dumped into the water, because paddleboarding on that ocean is no joke.
Right.
Especially your first time. And it was our first time. And yeah, we got our asses handed to us. It was ugly. I'm sure it was a spectacle, for beachgoers to see, these two doofuses falling off their paddleboard for 30 minutes. But we had this rental for like an hour, and we threw in the towel like 30 minutes in. Screw this. This sucks. Like the only redeeming part of it was like on the way back, I caught a wave. So like it like brought me into the shore. And I'm like, oh, this is so fun. But then there was like this surfer coming in, and I was like, I had no idea how to steer the paddleboard, so I thought I was going to take him out. Luckily, I just missed him.
He was probably like, get out of my way.
Right, exactly. Get out of the way. I don't know what I'm doing. So we bring our paddle boards back. It was a massive failure, and that was 2015. So that was my one and done paddleboarding experience. So which I thought, and then I kind of So, going in between colleges and stuff like that, I would work on as a general laborer, doing pipeline type work in the summers, in between the semesters. And I was working for my dad, who was always a foreman. And in 2016, I found myself working for him, and I was out in Illinois. And, we're working 10-hour days, 6 days a week. There's really nothing to do on Sundays. We're living out of a hotel. So I thought, well, let's try paddleboarding again. I don't like to fail at things. So obviously it was a massive failure, paddleboarding in Hawaii, rightfully so.
Right.
But I was like, I kind of want to try it again and give it a go. I think that it might be a different experience out on the lake versus out on the ocean with the waves and stuff.
Sure.
So I just went on Amazon and bought, a paddleboard, and I was like, I'm going to buy a super cheap one, so I bought this one that was $600. Well, it turned out it was the brand name was Isle, and you'll see that paddleboard actually a lot on Instagram photos. It's the blue one. Yep. So I bought that in 2016 and paddleboarded out on one of the local lakes there in Illinois. And it was a night and day experience, honestly. I was able to stand right away. I was able to paddle on the shoreline and fall in, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. So that's kind of where, my obsession with paddleboarding started to take off. The following year, I bought my wife her paddleboard for her birthday, and then we just kind of started being casual paddleboarders, I guess.
Yeah. That's the Hawaii story. I feel like that happens a lot of times, not just in the ocean, but any rental company. They just kind of like send you on your way and expect you to.
Oh yeah, no directions, no insight of what to do. It was just like when we brought them back, the one person was like, "Oh, I saw you caught a wave," and I'm like, "Thanks."
Yeah, is it a joke for them to watch people like go out there?
It has to be.
It's
got to be their form of entertainment. Well, here's these noobs.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Killed.
It's like they just rent it and that's it. You're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you though for trying it out, being open-minded for the second time, because I'm sure that's difficult to. Is that being your first experience, and then just at least giving it the chance of being a lake versus ocean.
Right. And I felt like I had to. It was going to be an investment because there was really no rental companies, and really paddleboarding has kind of started to take off, I feel, in the past couple of years. But back in the mid-2010s, it was kind of uncommon to see a paddleboard rental, especially here in the Midwest.
Same, here, yep, totally.
So I pretty much had to buy one. I didn't want to buy a junker from Walmart or something like that. So.
Yeah, that's good. How did you do any research with the boards, or?
I knew kind of to an extent. Look, we're going back 5 years here, so it's fuzzy, but I knew I like the aspect of the portability of an importable. So that's the route I wanted to take, because I didn't want to. I had a little Hyundai Elantra at the time, so it was like I couldn't really throw a big cardboard on top of my roof and go.
Right.
I had to have something transportable. So that's how I made my decision to go with inflatable, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the brand. How did you find Isle?
I just went on Amazon, typed inflatable paddleboard, and went in the range of like $600 to $700 essentially, and Isle was like one of the only ones at the time.
Yeah.
I don't even think they're on Amazon anymore. I think they're big now, so it's like I don't even think they were that big back then. I don't know. It was maybe one of their prototypes or something.
Caught it at the right time.
They have a standard, versions of their paddleboards now that are consistent, whereas as the years have gone, it's like a different model every year. It's kind of hard to keep track of them.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's for sure. Hard business to be in, do paddleboard outfitter like that.
Right.
Especially right now. But
well, I feel like no, actually, it's the opposite. Like, I have a board on backorder right now, so it's like,
do you?
Yeah, it's and another company I was trying to work with. They're like, yeah, it's been a weird year. It's like everything's sold out and it's ridiculously fast fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And, theorizing about it, I've talked to multiple people that it's pretty much because of the pandemic. You can't go anywhere. So people are looking to get outside and finding, recreational activity. And paddleboarding is kind of a float lately. So
Yeah.
companies are finding themselves, raking in the profits, I feel, this
Right.
year. I expect that to start going down here as things start opening up. Yeah, there's been a huge surplus in paddleboarding in the past year or two.
Yeah, we'll see how that what happens. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Well, so on your blog, you highlight some paddleboarders and stuff, and I think you had a pretty cool story that I was actually reading about. Well, it might be might be more of something funny, but you shared something about how you fell. And I found it unique, and especially if someone is new to paddleboarding and they fall and they didn't have an instruction, like something, some scenario like in Hawaii for you, um, how do they get back on their board? Well, you just told a whole story of what happened to you and like how you approached getting back on the lake or on the paddleboard in the middle of the lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually in Illinois. And it only had to have been like, 4 or 5 times out since I bought the pilot paddleboard off Amazon that happened. And basically, I'm an idiot. And, we went out there in the morning, still a little bit of alcohol running through my system. So my balance is not working. So, um, yeah, in Hawaii, it was a different thing. I don't know. I feel like the boards are easier to get back on. You just use your upper body strength right at, the edge of the board, essentially, because it's not tipping, because it's so damn heavy. Well,
Yeah.
the inflatables are different experience, totally. So, trying that same technique, well, the board that's doing that, it's like, how do I get back on? So I grab the handle and then start tipping that. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. So am I going to die? So, yeah, it's a learning curve. I feel like you definitely need to kind of like investigate all scenarios before you start venturing out and stuff like that, because it can make for a dangerous situation. There's a possibility I could have drowned, and unfortunately that never came to fruition. But like, it's always like a humbling experience where you get thrown into situations like that and you don't know what you're doing. I feel like it's also important to kind of make that effort to learn these techniques, because falling off your board it's going to happen. You're not perfect.
Right.
I find myself falling off my board. I don't know. I'd like to say less than I want, but it's probably like 3 or 4 times a year where I'll just accidentally fall off my board. But I'm prepared for it. I know at this point what I'm doing. If you're just starting out, I feel like you got to start. Things can go bad in a heartbeat.
Right. Yeah. I lesson. I because I teach, I always harp on getting a lesson, even if it's even if it's a private lesson, and you get the board, and hopefully you could find some sort of research if you can't get a lesson on what to do, and we're kind of giving some information out there for folks to be able to see some things if they're really wanting to get into paddleboarding.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's two lessons on your story. I found it kind of unique that, like you said, maybe a little under the influence, and then reaching for the handle. And like you said, those board types, there's many different types of board types of shapes, the weight, everything. So inflatable, a little bit lighter, yeah, it's easier like to flip up, and you're not using like your body weight to get all the way up across the board before it flips.
Mm-hmm.
So just like little things like that a lot of people don't really think about if they're a beginner.
Right, and I actually like the board I'm talking about. That's on back order. It's like a bamboo epoxy type board, so it's not inflatable. So I'm gonna have to learn how to get back up on that thing too, just so it's instinct at that point where I can just do that. You know, if I fall off an inflatable, I know how to get back on it, but I'm not just going to assume that I know how to get back on this board that I've never fallen off. You know, so it's just stuff like that.
Yeah. What kind of board is it?
It's Paddle North. So I recently just upgraded myself and my wife's boards last February. I got the inflatable already, but I'm just waiting on the hardboard because, like I said, you know, things are on back order. It's a weird year for paddleboarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Well, that'll be cool. That'll be fun stuff for the summertime.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. You have tons of lakes by you, just like I do.
Absolutely. There's so much to take advantage of, and there's not enough time.
Which one is your favorite?
It's hard to say. Obviously, I love going up. If you see my Instagram posts, I love going up to Lake Superior. There's a place called Wisconsin Point, which is, you know, in Wisconsin. But it's just like, so it's on the very tip of Lake Superior where it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Where Duluth and the town Superior meet. It's a shipping town, so all those big freight ships that you see out on the Great Lakes, that's, you know, one of their stops where they'll you know, fill up on product and go out of there. But in any case, there's a sandbar that stretches from, you know, Superior, and it goes like 3 miles down. It's very shallow. It's like 3 to 4 feet for, you know, 100 yards out. It's nothing but sand. And I love it. I love going there. It's just like, it's kind of like San Juan, really, but in the Midwest. You know? And Michigan has a lot of sandy beaches too along its shore as well. So I'd really love to get out there. Hopefully this summer I can get to it. Lake Superior definitely one of my favorites, but I really like, there's a private lake that my brother has, he lives on, and it's just like him and maybe 3 or 4 other residents on this lake. So it's very small and secluded, and nobody has boats or anything like that. So if I go on there, I know I have that lake all to myself, and I love the whole peace and tranquility of just kind of, you know, solitude of being on the lake and not having to see all these pontoon boats pass by, and I have all this, you know, nature to take in all to myself. I'm selfish like that, but, you know,
that's cool.
That's one of my happy places. I like that.
Yeah, is it so it must be no boat lake, no motor lake?
There's no access. There's no boat
I see.
access. So,
yeah.
I mean,
Perfect.
There's one of his neighbors has a pontoon, and I've never seen him take it out. So
yeah. Nice. That's awesome.
But yeah, there's tons of lakes to frequent around me. I live in, you know, the town Forest Lake, and there's, you know, a lake called Forest Lake.
Mm-hmm.
They call it 3 lakes because it's technically just like a big lake next to a little lake, next to even a little lake. So it's all one big lake. Like I said, very popular recreational, you know, boating type of stuff. So if you're paddling on it, you're not going to be alone, which, you know, is fine for some people. But for me, I like being by myself.
Yeah, you do a lot of paddling on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend it if you're just starting out, obviously, because you want kind of, you know, a buddy with you. But I'm to the point where I can kind of venture out, I feel, on my own and feel confident and safe. So.
Yeah, right. That's cool. And then you take a lot of cool photos. You've got, I believe you have a drone, right?
I do. I do have a drone. I actually have a little story that I probably could share with you. So I received the drone last Christmas. It was a Christmas gift. And obviously, you know, it's winter time, so I'm not going to get the chance to really use it here in the Midwest because all the damn lakes are frozen over until, you know, late March. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, okay, well, if I get a wetsuit, really thick wetsuit, Lake Superior's not froze over yet. It could freeze over in February, but I have an opportunity to go out there. So I went out there and actually used my drone for the first time, and got some pretty cool footage and stuff with it. It was really fun to use. Super easy. You know, you can just, it's a Mavic Mini, and you just essentially press a button, and it goes in a circle and records you and does all this stuff hands free. I'm like, this is perfect for me. And by then, you know, that experience comes and goes, and February hits and everything freezes over. We had like this massive cold freeze in February that just was brutal for 2 weeks, and Lake Superior ended up freezing. And within about a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks later, stuff starts letting up again. I'm like, well, okay, maybe I can go in the river because that's starting to open up. So I go in the St. Croix River, which is it's the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's a town called Stillwater, and I tried it out over there, and it was a really good experience. I was starting to get more and more confident with the drone, and I'm like, okay, well, I know Lake Superior's open. I'm going to take this sucker up there and, give it a rip up there. And it was like the next day, I think, that I went up there and getting all this great footage. I had not downloaded all my footage yet from the Stillwater trip. And I got all this footage from Lake Superior, and I'm like, okay, it's time to bring the drone in, and I'm going to land it. And I'm not really sure what I'm doing, and it just slips off the bottom of my board and sinks into oblivion, like
Oh no.
into the murky water of Lake Superior.
Oh
So
no.
there went my drone. There went all that footage that I'd taken, and yeah, it's still there.
It's still there. Oh no.
I have a pretty good idea where it is, but
Can you
I have
get
to wait
it?
for the water. I think I can because it's probably in like maybe 4 feet of water, and the water's clear at various times. If there's not a storm or anything like that, the sand settles, and it's just like going to be sitting on top of a sandbar. So I went and purchased a new drone right away. I'm like, I need this in my life. I need this stupid drone. So I went and bought a new one, and this time I'm like, okay, we got to have a plan B because I'm not going to be landing on my board anymore. I can't just shovel out $250 every time I use a drone. It's stupid. So I did actually go and buy a new one, and I found this flotation device. So this is my drone.
Oh
And it's
wow.
kind of like one of those little helicopters that you see take off from
Yeah.
lakes. So essentially, you just set this in the water like so, and it lifts off and can land right on the water. So you don't have to worry
Oh
about
my
it
gosh.
slipping off of your paddleboard anymore. So I've been utilizing that. The weather's been crappy lately. It's been rainy, so I haven't got a chance to really dig into its full potential. But yeah, I'm hoping to go and find my old drone because I do have an insurance policy. If I find it, I can send it back for $40 and they'll send me a new one. So I can at least have two drones.
You'll have two drones.
Eventually get back my my footage, which is more important to me, honestly.
Is that one a Maverick too that you have?
It's a Mavic Mini 2.
Okay.
Or one. The first one.
First one. Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
You put those floaties on there.
It was like $20 on Amazon. So I'm not an Amazon affiliate or anything like that. I'm not promoting the product, but yeah, just if you have a drone and you want to do water type of footage, go buy that. It's worth it.
Yeah. Well, I have the Phantom 3. So I've had mine for 6 years now, I think, and I am still eerie about the water, but I fly it over the water and I do stuff with it. But you know what? I have two different batteries. One's that it came with, and the other one is more or less like an aftermarket, cheaper battery, but it was just kind of like my backup. And actually, it works great, just as good as the other one. But you know what? I noticed that last fall I was doing some sunset footage, and I thought I want to get down there at the beach and get this drone going and everything. Get there, put it up, take it right over the lake just a little bit, and all of a sudden the signal came back at me like weak signal, warning or whatever she said. And I was like, what? And I know it has the return to home, and supposedly it's supposed to do that if there is some sort of like error or whatever, but it acted like it was going to land right in the lake. It was like coming in for landing, and it wasn't coming to me. It was like beep, beep, beep going down, and I pulled back on the throttle as fast as I could to get it back to me. And I was so nervous after that then back in the fall. And then I guess how I overcame that a little bit was lake froze and there was some skaters and stuff, and so I had it out over the lake then, and it, and it's open, so there's no, because I was thinking it was an interference or something, like signals or something, wires, I don't know, and it's some kind of interference. And then I had it out on the frozen lake, and it was totally fine, and it wasn't completely freezing, so I don't, it just was fine. And then all of a sudden it did it again just recently. And I think it's the battery. I think the original battery is getting too old for it.
I've lost signal before too. So what I have to do is essentially just power down the remote, and it just, the aircraft will just hover in place until it comes back on, and then I'll just reconnect it, and then I can go again. But I've had that happen too, where it's like, I lose signal doing whatever I'm doing. I'm like, this is annoying. But it's probably because I'm doing it all over water. There's no land features.
Are you really into photography and stuff?
No, I'm not a photographer in any stretch of imagination.
But you have like the really cool filters on your Instagram posts and stuff, like.
Yeah, that's all by design. I guess I feel like so the whole Instagram paddleboarding thing, I feel, is like really saturated, and there's a lot of people doing it. And for me, starting out, it was like, I got to find something to do to stand out somehow. Otherwise, I'm just going to be another face in the crowd. So I kind of started combining, okay, well, I like paddleboarding, I like 1980s stuff. Let's start combining 1980s and paddleboarding, and that'll be my gimmick. I think when I first started out, I was like, "Sup retro 8.4" or something stupid like that. I changed it, obviously.
You changed it.
It was silly. So yeah, it was almost like a wrestling gimmick at that point. So, and if you go far back into like last summer, you'll see a lot more of that, like filter, color, vaporwave is the aesthetic, but
vaporwave.
Vaporwave, yeah.
That's what it's called?
Vaporwave? Yeah, if you Google vaporwave, it's like associated to, it's an art form that's like inspired by 1980s, and it eventually migrated to music, so it's like a lot of synthesizer type of, it's called chill wave or vaporwave, or synth wave is the main genre. But in any case, I kind of wanted to stand out by incorporating these aspects into some of the photography that I was doing. And it was a learning curve, as all things are, trying to find my way and figure out what worked for me. Eventually, I feel pretty confident where I need to be now is where I am. So versus where I first started out, like I started out last summer, I think, doing this as kind of a hobby, and it just kind of started growing and growing and growing, because finding out that there's a whole community of paddleboarders out there that, wanting to be supportive of one another and whatnot, and it's a great community to be a part of. And then I decided, okay, well, if I'm going to do this paddleboarding thing, I also want to keep up on my writing skills because, college and stuff like that, I have various degrees, one of which is musicology. I'm kind of done doing music stuff, but I like writing. Let's do a blog about paddleboarding. So the whole thing was like a big build, I guess, just kind of gaining followers and gaining this audience of sorts, building towards this blog. And I finally launched it back in February. So it's just kind of in its infancy. It's not really super taking off. It's going to be a slow grind, just like the Instagram build was, and I'm okay with that. I'm not monetizing it in any way at the moment, and it's just all about connecting people, kind of educating, giving insight about paddleboarding, especially here in the Midwest. And eventually, I'd like to start incorporating a community-based type of thing for the Midwest. Right now, I'm kind of globally involved, I feel, with followers and stuff on Instagram, so that's why we see these interviews and whatnot that I'm doing. It's people scattered around the globe, essentially.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. Who have you had on your blog?
Well, I've had few people. My first interview was actually Nozu. I interviewed Eric. He launched his product. It's funny. I launched my blog, and he launched his product line of paddleboard straps.
Yeah.
On February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, so the same day.
Oh wow.
And it wasn't planned at all. It was just like a coincidence.
Yeah.
But yeah. He was my first guest, and I had Bassam. He's out in California, so he's like Open Ocean Vibes, I believe is what he goes by on Instagram. He goes out paddleboarding and on the Pacific over there, and encounters dolphins, whales, and sunfish, and all these fantastic creatures that you or I have no chance of seeing here in the little Midwest
right
region. Yeah, and then I just interviewed Kristen. Her name is, or she goes by Norwegian Set Girl. She's in Norway. I have to publish hers. I'm hoping by tomorrow. I've just been swamped with work, but I'm hoping to get hers. And then my previous guest, Erin, up in Manitoba, Canada. So she's just like 5 hours. Well, not 5 hours, but I guess Winnipeg is like 5 hours from me, and then it's like a 2-day train ride to get to Churchill and Hudson Bay. So she runs a paddleboard outfit or a tour out there where you can go paddleboarding with beluga whales, and just a once in a lifetime experience.
I did a training with her, like.
So you actually know her?
Yeah, in San Diego. Yeah, I met her, and she was talking about it then. At the training, I was like, "What? That's so
She's
cool."
Amazing. She's so funny too.
Yeah.
just a great person to be around.
Yeah, I know. That's what I remember, and it was just like, wow, that's so far away, like from, where I live. Not San Diego, but from Michigan, and they were talking about how the wildlife and stuff like that there, and it was just amazing because it's like things you don't really see here.
Exactly, like polar bears and
right,
and the northern lights all the time, any time of the day, or year.
So cool. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And I want to also mention I did I want to get this right. Air yoga, maybe. So Joe and Sophie, they're French Canadians in Quebec, and they do all these like acro yoga poses.
Oh wow!
And whatnot on the paddleboarding. While they paddleboard, so like they're standing on top of each other, holding each other on the paddleboard. So it's crazy what they're doing.
Yeah,
actually, it's insane. I can't even imagine pulling that off myself. But
yeah,
they were a treat to interview. So yeah, I feel like the interviews are going to be slowing down here as the summer starts opening back up. But the idea is just to start connecting people. People, hey, this person is out here doing this. You should check it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I love it. And that's sort of how I, with this podcast, but I've had other people on too that are either yoga or fitness or just entrepreneurial based. So, but it's such a lifestyle. It's kind of like what you're talking about, and how people take it on, and everybody's different, and it's just so cool to hear.
Yeah.
It's more than just it's more than just paddleboarding.
Yeah, for some people, it's just like it's a passion. I feel like if you haven't tried paddleboarding, obviously recommend trying it. But I feel like if you tried it and you're just out there on the water and just kind of doing your thing and paddling along, and I feel like you're just going to get addicted and fall in love with it.
Yeah.
That's. I feel like so before last year I was kind of casual paddleboarder. I wasn't like obsessed with it, and that all came about with the pandemic. It's like we can't go outside because it's February, and around here you're freezing your butt off in February. Mm-hmm. So March hits, and then everything shuts down. You can't go anywhere. By the end of March, things start warming up, and by April, the lakes start melting. Ice starts melting off the lakes, and well, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. I can't see anybody. So, it's paddleboarding. So that's how I kind of started getting more obsessed with paddleboarding. I feel like I have more time on my hands for it. And the reason being, I couldn't do anything else, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, now it's going to be a test because as things are starting to loosen up here, whether I'm going to keep my schedule of paddleboarding and stuff incorporated with more opportunity to do other things. But it's going to be a balance, I feel. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. You'll have more times to go out, catch a sunset.
Catch up with see friends, because vaccines are getting more and more out there. I'm fully vaccinated. A lot of my friends are fully vaccinated, so it's hanging out more often. But we'll see how things go.
Right. Yeah.
But another thing that was going to, affect my schedule, as this stuff rolls out, things start loosening up. I was hoping to travel more. I had planned on going around all the Great Lakes this year. I don't think that's going to happen in Canada right now. Still has border restrictions in place, and it doesn't look like it's going to ease up anytime soon. So I might have to just settle for going around, Lake Michigan or something like that. Around the South Shore or Superior, kind of fill in the gaps as maybe next year.
Yeah, is that your bucket list paddle to do the Great Lakes?
Yeah, I've done a mini Great Lakes tour. I didn't go around the whole full circle, but I started in Cleveland on Lake Erie and kind of went to Niagara Falls, went up to Toronto, then went around the big side of Huron.
Yeah.
Came down to, the Mackinac Bridge, and then went down this. Did I go around Michigan? A little bit of Michigan, not much at all. And then South Shore Superior. So it was kind of a mini little road trip. I wanted to do a big one. I don't know if I'm going to have time this year. So I was kind of thinking about maybe breaking it up. I'll do like Superior in Michigan one year, and then I'll do the rest another year or something like that. But I do got a bucket list going on. Talking to Aaron and Orleans guy.
Yeah, right.
We want the opportunity to do that. So, and that's like, convenient for me because Winnipeg's a 5-hour drive, and a 2-hour train ride, or there are ways of getting over there and charter flights. I have to look into it, but that's an opportunity that I can see happening maybe next year.
Yeah.
And obviously, you see all the beautiful photos of Horseshoe Bend and the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. I want to try that.
Yeah.
I want to redeem myself and go back to Hawaii and try that. Also, going back to falling off my board, that story in Illinois, I kind of want to go back to that and try to see if I can find my phone. Because I lost my phone on the trip. And my Ray-Ban sunglasses. So they were prescriction.
So you have some things to collect here.
Oh, I know. I'm terrible. I lose so much shit. But inexpensive stuff, too.
Yeah. A drone.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to lose my car keys the next time I go out or something.
Oh, don't say that. So you lost your phone and your Ray-Ban sunglasses?
Yeah, it was a very expensive little boo-boo falling off my paddleboard. So I had my phone in a case, like a floatable case.
Yeah.
That I bought on Amazon, and I was like, I didn't test it out. I just assumed it would do what I bought it for, and it didn't. It sunk right to the bottom. So it's sealed up, in a leak-proof case, just sitting there at the bottom of a lake somewhere. So maybe I can find it, maybe not. I feel I can find my drone. I'm gonna try to do that maybe next month.
Yeah, the water's clear, right? Like, I mean, I know you're saying about like sand and stuff like that, but Lake Superior is pretty known for being clear.
Yep, you can. I can actually take my other drone, and if the water's not stirred up from a storm or anything,
Yeah.
go along the lake shore until I find it, because it's going to stand out. It's a light gray color against the sand, a sandy bottom. So
Yeah, Lake Superior is so funny. It's like I'm trying to imagine like where you're at. Like you said, like a shipping type of channel.
Right. The St. Louis River flows into the start of Lake Superior,
Okay.
and that's where it's there's multiple shipping docks along Duluth and Superior, and then up the shore a little bit. There's two harbors, so there's a bunch of docks or harbors for these big giant boats. And in Minnesota, there's a lot of iron ore mines and stuff, so that's how a lot of that gets transported down the Great Lakes chain.
Okay.
So, and trains, coming from Canada and stuff, they dump everything into Duluth, and then it gets put on the boat and sent off on its way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lake Superior can turn deadly in a moment. I have a map, and it shows all the shipwrecks and stuff that have happened, since and there's 300 or 400, some crazy number.
Yeah.
Yeah. The water temp is always cold. It's always, even in the summer, it's just on really hot days where it's 100 degrees, it's nice. You can just go to the beach and go into the lake.
Yeah.
The lake's freezing cold, so.
So freezing cold in that spot too, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It's you can't get over it.
Yeah.
Cold around here.
I'm familiar with of course, the Upper Peninsula part of Michigan and Pictured Rocks, and I kayaked that before, and it's just such big water. It's crazy. I mean, especially with the rock formations, how the waves come from the boats that are doing some of the tour boats for the Pictured Rocks, and then people that are kayaking, they're closer to the rock formations, so the waves just bounce off the wall and come back at you, and that's the first time I ever saw kayaking, a long time ago. I think I was 15 or 16 years old, and I think that's what caught my eye about paddling in general, the very first glimpse of sea kayaks.
Yeah, and I mean, those are just the boats that you saw. Imagine the waves that are produced from those big shipping boats.
Yeah,
I've
right.
seen them. I've gotten messed up because we were just swimming, on the shoreline, and it was kind of rocky-ish, and all of a sudden we were just standing there, minding our own business, and all of a sudden these waves come in, and we just couldn't get out of them. We were just getting rocked back and forth on the shoreline. We were like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And yeah, it's crazy. I think down in I saw it in the Gulf of Mexico, people will surf those, actually take a surfboard and
yeah,
surf on the wake almost.
Yeah, I've seen some videos like that on YouTube that they chase either some sort of a ferry. I've seen that one out east on New Jersey, and then Texas, those barges that are out there, Corpus Christi area out there.
Mm-hmm. So you're probably aware that there's a surfing community in the Great Lakes as well.
Yes.
That's insane. I can't believe they do that. You see the dudes with the beards, and it's just pure icicles, and it's that's not for me. I could not.
I can't do that one either. I love to watch surfing, and I've tried surfing. I've had some lessons in surfing, but of course, like you said, where we live, you don't really get to do that often. But they're doing it in the cold, and I'm like, no, that's when I draw the line.
Exactly.
I so appreciate their effort and their what they do, and I love watching it. But it looks like they're in the Antarctic.
Yeah, they're a different breed. That's for certain.
Yeah, right. Because that water that's coming in, it's so big and it's cold, and they're by the lighthouses, and the you see the icicles off of it, and you just know how cold it really is. It's so crazy. So yeah, you wouldn't do that either, huh?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I'll do anything once, but you'd have to really twist my arm to do it. But I don't know.
So you mentioned you do some music and stuff. So you're writing. Do you write some music?
Yeah. So I mean, I am in a totally different place than what I thought I was going to be in. But I started out as a music major. So I actually went to the University of Wisconsin Superior, which is where I was talking about, where I like to go paddleboarding and stuff like that. And that's where I kind of fell in love with the Great Lakes, honestly. It's just my happy place. I love going there so much. But that's where I went to college. I got a performance degree in classical guitar as my bachelor's. And while I was there, I kind of discovered all kinds of different stuff. I like conducting. I discovered composition, research writing, all of these stuff, these skills that I started picking up there. And I just kind of, I don't know, I spent like 4 years in limbo trying to get into grad schools. I finally got into one and got accepted in 2016. So the semester after the whole, I lost my phone and almost died, I started grad school and got accepted for actually 2 masters. I went in for musicology as my primary, and then I got orchestral conducting as my secondary master. Walked out of there in 2 years with my 2 masters. I actually got, like, not patting myself on the back by any means, but I'm trying to set a point up for my next thing. But I actually walked out of there with a 4.0 in peer-reviewed published research. Like, I have a paper that's in a book that students use to do research and stuff like that. And I legitimately thought, okay, I built myself up, got to this point, and I'm going to go on to a doctorate program. And I really want to go to the Minneapolis U. Because I wanted to go there because I was living in South Dakota at the time. So I'm separated from my wife. My wife has a career here in the Minneapolis area still. I'm not going to ask her to give up her job to come up so I can go to school. It's stupid. So we're living long distance for 2 years, and I'm like, well, okay, so I'm for the doctorate programs, and I'm going to make the U my top priority. I want to get in there, feel like I got a chance to get into it for the musicology department. And if I did not get in, I was like one of the 4 candidates or whatever, and by then the writing was starting to become apparent that was on the wall. I just hadn't seen it really up until that point, because like when you get to that point, it's like when you're in the undergrad and even at the master's level, it's what the university can do for the students to help hone their craft, and it doesn't matter what field you're in, they're gonna make the best effort to make you grow. When you get to the doctorate level, it's like what you can bring to that department. And what I kind of found out was like, okay, my research interests, which are classical guitar and contemporary, are not really hot button topics, that you see today. Like, women's suffrage is a very popular thing to do research writing on. So they're essentially handpicking the candidates based on, what's trendy-ish at the time, I guess, to that respect. So I decided, okay, I'm going to apply one more time. I'm going to retweak a bunch of crap, and I didn't get anything. I even expanded out. I decided, enough's enough. I've chased this pipe dream for 7 years now, including the 4 years that I sat on the shelf, and given all of this stuff to music, and I have really nothing to show for it, because realistically, even obtaining a bachelor's and 2 master's degrees, I can't get a job unless I have a doctorate. My whole, passion was to teach. I wanted to teach music history to kids who wanted to be there to learn music history. I didn't want to do like a public school band teacher type of gig. They're just there for the credit or whatever. And eventually, necessarily want to be there. Not my thing. It's for other people. I'm not crapping on that, but I wanted to do the teaching stuff, and it just never came to fruition. Even getting a doctorate, spending 3 to 5 years doing that, you enter a almost non-existent job market. Like I have my best friend right now. Him and his wife have doctorates in anthropology. They both graduated from Minneapolis, and he teaches. They both live in Kazakhstan, and that's the only place he can really get a job. He's been there for 5 years, and he can't find a job in the United States. And I look just about every week on the job postings and stuff for stuff I'm qualified for, and there's never anything. So it's like I had to walk away.
Wow, it's almost like a dying art in a way. Like I don't.
It's really competitive, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of politics involved. So it's just not for me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have that drive. You know, I have a family. Like I'm not. If I didn't have a family or anything like that, I would probably be pretty cutthroat about it. But I got to take care of my wife and kids. So you know, I started making the best out of my opportunities
Right.
that I had in front of me versus continuing down this path that potentially is going to lead to that. And who knows, something might pop up. You know, I have the qualifications to teach at a college, right? But they have the mindset that if you don't have a doctorate, you're not qualified. So what do you do?
Mm.
But going back on what you said, because I just gave you a very long, elaborate explanation of this, but I do compose music, and even going back further to the vaporwave, synthwave,
Yeah.
I actually write synthwave music. So I'm hoping to have an album out, like a 40-minute EP out by the fall. We'll see. But
Cool.
that's the project I'm currently working on, aside from all the paddleboarding stuff. So I got a lot going on.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know. But
That's awesome, though. I mean, good for you, doing different things and finding out like ways to, sprinkle in the even the photo filter and all of that. That's cool. It's a cool story.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's see. I'm going to ask you quite an Earth Day kind of question because it's Earth Week. Earth Day's Thursday.
Is it? I don't know. Okay.
What's that?
I don't know what day. It's 420, so we're supposed to be smoking weed or something today, right? I don't know what day is today, honestly. Tuesday.
You're just in the moment, huh?
Exactly. I'm just trying to keep my head above the
water. Unlike the drone?
Yeah, which is rest in peace.
Did the drone have a name?
If it did, it would probably be unlucky or something.
Oh, that's funny. It's good to have a sense of humor. I mean, unfortunately, things just fall in the water and it just, it happens, right? You didn't mean for it to happen or anything like that.
I mean, if you were there, you would have laughed. It was such a pathetic sight because it slipped off and I saw it going down and I went, no! And I dove for it and I couldn't get it. My hand just got soaked and it was so cold and I'm like, no!
Oh my god!
And then I just laughed and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. And then immediately I was like, I can get it back because I hadn't thought about it. And I dipped my paddle down and I'm like, okay, it's about 4 feet deep. But the water's really cold. I don't really have my wetsuit and probably not worth it. So I'll come back.
You might need
I'll make this a story of redemption.
Yeah, you should. It'd be a good Instagram thing. Get some snorkel gear.
Oh yeah, you got it.
A mask and the wetsuit. Mask up, yeah. Right? No, I was gonna ask, how are your lakes as far as just visual pollution, litter or trash, whatever?
It's not as bad as you would think. Especially, you're going to find that more in the more urbanized, communities. And I was on one of the more popular lakes in Minneapolis last fall, and it's called or something. They renamed it. It was formerly Lake Calhoun, and you can see the skyline of Minneapolis and all that stuff.
Okay.
I didn't notice any trash. We do a pretty good job of picking up stuff, but once you get into the more rural areas, you start seeing the beer cans on the side of roads and whatnot. Typically Lake's responsibility. I had a theory that the beer cans that you're going to see on the trash or on the side of the road are mostly going to be Bud Light or Busch Light. And she was like, "Yep, you're right."
Yeah,
I called it. But as far as the lakes and pollution goes, you're going to see that anywhere. I feel like it's not as bad on our end of the spectrum, but maybe I'm a little biased when I say that too, because from Minnesota, and I don't want to tarnish our good reputation and stuff like that. But honestly, I mean, you'll see it in the rivers. Obviously, I don't go in the river that much because I don't trust rivers. Mm-hmm. But as far as like cleanups and stuff like that, no, I don't really know anybody. Honestly, I feel like I'm a lone wolf in Minnesota. I don't know anybody that paddleboards around here. Maybe like a handful of people.
Really?
But we're pretty few and far between in this area. That's the reason why I wanted to start this whole paddleboarding blog and start creating a community and stuff. You don't see that around here. You see that in like the UK, and you look at over in Europe and Britain. There's like a ton of people that paddle together, and it's like, holy cow, this community is great. I want that. I'm really envious of that, but I don't have it. So I'm trying to build it. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. We
got way off topic.
No, we're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I would agree. The paddleboarding community, especially locally for you, it's probably about the same for us. I know it's getting I've seen it grow. It's getting there, and I think that the more you do it, the more you talk about it or post on it, and it'll just happen,
Right.
That's what I think. Because like I said, I saw paddleboarding first in Hawaii too. And, besides the whole kayaking thing, because I think that was much more popular around here versus paddleboarding. And then when I went to Hawaii, I saw it there. I didn't do it. I wasn't sure what it was even called, really. I just saw them out paddling, doing something. They weren't surfing. And I knew the difference of surfing, obviously. And I came home and I just thought that was a very Hawaii, maybe California type of thing, and never saw it again here. I had my own kayak that I would go out on. Then, many years later, I'm on the lake here where I live now in Sylvan Lake, and a couple shops, outdoor shops, not REI, but some smaller ones, had some boards and stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm starting to put two and two together. I was like, yeah, remember when you saw that in Hawaii, like 10 years ago? I think it might be making its way here. And then I became obsessed, just, looking on the internet and started seeing more boards pop up. And then I would just research that company and look at it and stuff. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I think it's actually you could do this here, like on the lake. It doesn't have to be an ocean thing.
Yeah, you're like 10 years behind, like one of those Southeast, like Asian countries that have like just starting to get stuff from the 80s,
Yeah, pretty much.
Like in the 2020s and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been pretty wild to see how many even Canadians are super into it, and they don't have the beauty of weather all year around like us too. So
oh no, they got it worse.
Yeah.
Worse.
Totally. So
there are people waiting for probably another 2 months before they can start the paddleboarding lakes and stuff.
I know, right? I say that and people are like, really? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've never been able to hold classes at least until summer solstice, maybe the week before, which is end of June.
Why is that?
It's just cold.
Oh, come on.
People don't want to go out in the cold. They want that water to be warm.
Just tell them don't fall in.
Don't fall in.
Simple as that. Simple.
That's funny. I'm going to have you come out for to help me with some classes.
I'll whip them in with that. You don't like it, you can leave. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, that's funny.
Classes start in March.
Classes start in March here, okay? I'm already getting anxious, and it's 420. 420. Oh my gosh, it's been so fun having you on and sharing just your passion and all your Instagram posting, and we're getting the behind the scenes.
Yeah, revealing, but not revealing too much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I really had a great time.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. And thank you, Michael, for sharing your paddleboard stories and inspiring others to get out there and join in the sport. I really appreciate you being here. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Go check out Michael's blog. It's midwestpaddling.com. And I'm Misty with the show Wave On here in Sylvan Lake, Michigan. And thanks for tuning in. We got episode 20 under the belt. So we got some more paddlers coming up in the next few weeks. So stay tuned.